Welcome to the Sleeper Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Lehman. Thanks for tuning in. Please take a second to leave a rating and review on whatever platform you're listening from, and make sure to subscribe so you're notified when we post future episodes. It really helps a lot, and it's a great way to support the show. We are now available wherever you find podcasts. Also, please follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Sleeper Dynasty. Merch is coming soon. So first off, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who supported the show by leaving a rating. I'm still really overwhelmed with the amount of support. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and seeing just how many people love fantasy football just as much as I do is really cool. I really just want to build this community and make new friends along the way. Whether you're a fantasy football addict or just wanting to start a fantasy football league, this podcast is for you. So we're less than 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. I'm going to keep pushing out rookie profiles so that we're familiar with these guys before the NFL draft. We're also going to be having rookie positional rankings as well as a 4-round rookie mock draft coming soon. So again, thanks for tuning in to this special Solar Eclipse edition of the Sleeper Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm glad I get to spend this time with you guys before the end of the world happens today. So thanks for coming to listen to my voice is one of the last things you hear. So on this final day, we're going to be talking about Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye. I'm not going to lie, these were some of the hardest prospects I've done so far. And I think that's because I had questions about these guys. I really wanted to dive in and see which one of these guys I want to take in my draft over the other one. Because before going into this, I was just kind of taking the consensus view of take Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye, right? And that wasn't always the case, but I think that's where we're at now. These guys are close, though. They're currently expected to go number 2 and number 3 in the NFL draft, according to the NFL mock draft database, with Jayden Daniels going at number 2 to the Washington Commanders and Drake Maye going one spot later to the New England Patriots. And it's just interesting because for the past year, I think we all expected that Drake Maye would be going as a top 2 quarterback in this class, and that no longer seems to be the case. I wanted to do these 2 prospects next because I think this decision is going to be a big one at the top of Superflex rookie drafts. I needed to know for myself which one of these guys I would take in a rookie draft. It seems the consensus right now is to go Jayden Daniels. As someone who knows age is very important when looking at rookie quarterbacks as prospects, I needed to find out for myself why everybody was overlooking the fact that Jayden Daniels is 23 years old. So let's start with Drake Maye, quarterback out of UNC. He's 21 years old. He'll be 22 when the season starts. He's 6'4", 223 pounds, but he does have small hands at 9 1/8 inch long. And he didn't participate in the 40 at the combine, but he did run a 4.6 40 previously, which is in the 90th percentile for quarterbacks. So let's talk about Drake Maye's bio. So Drake Maye was the successor to Sam Howell, who played for the Washington Commanders. Maye didn't just fill Howell's shoes, he created his own legacy. Maye was a 5-star recruit from Myers Park High School, and he was recognized with a 4-star rating by both ESPN and 24/7 Sports. In Maye's freshman year in 2021, he offered only a glimpse of his potential as he only saw just 2 games. However, his statistics were promising. He had 89 yards on 10 attempts, a 70% completion rate, an average of 8.9 yards per pass, 1 touchdown, and a solid QB rating of 130. Maye's 2022 campaign was a masterclass in quarterbacking, as he completed 342 of 517 passes for a total of 4,321 yards, 38 touchdowns, and just 7 interceptions. His proficiency on the ground was equally impressive, rushing for almost 700 yards and 7 scores. Though his numbers saw a slight dip in 2023 to 3,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, his on-field performance and technique has arguably been improved. Just looking at some of his awards, in 2022, he was PFF's 3rd-team All-American, ACC Player of the Year, the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year, FWAA Freshman All-American, Manning Award finalist, Walter Camp National Player of the Year semifinalist, Maxwell Award semifinalist, Davey O'Brien Award semifinalist, and in 2022, he also became just the 6th quarterback since 2010 to post 4,000 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 650 rushing yards, and 7 rush touchdowns in a season, joining Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Marcus Mariota, Johnny Manziel, and Robert Griffin III. So that's a pretty good list of guys to be on that list. Is very impressive. And then in 2023, he was the Manning Award finalist again. I mean, this is why he was going as the number 2 quarterback. I mean, he really broke out, and for a long time, it was Caleb Williams, Drake Maye. And I remember telling people that I could see a world where Drake Maye goes 1 overall over Caleb. I wouldn't say that anymore. Not after watching the film. That was just kind of the vibe I was getting from where these guys were at after the college season ended. So some of his strengths that I saw in the film, he has great dual threat ability, and I really think it's slept on as far as scrambles and designed runs. I didn't really realize how much they used him in designed runs, and it is a very prominent part of his game. He can run the ball. And even with his prototypical size, he can run the ball well. I mean, for a 6'4", 223-pound guy, he starts moving pretty quick. And his speed is just quick for that size. He can throw off platform and across his body. And he does it so many times in the film. It's not easy to do that. It's not easy to throw off platform, but I mean, I can think of a play right now where he's just rolling out to his left, and as he's rolling out left, he kind of comes back, throws the ball perfectly across his body, and it was right on the money. And so I think Drake Maye, he has these tools. He has the legs, he has the arm. And so, what else is there? I mean, when you're looking at tools, those are 2 pretty important things that people are looking at, and you kind of get wowed by that. And I think that's why all of us got wowed by him, is because he does these plays in every game. He has these big plays multiple times in a game where he'll throw off platform. So it's not something it's not a one-off thing. It's common. Like he can do it. And he can throw off platform many times. He's shown that he can do that. I did notice that he kind of plays hero ball. There's some plays where he like one play he threw a left-handed touchdown, which is great. I mean, and the guy was open enough to where it wasn't a dangerous play. The one play I had an issue with was kind of where he was taking a sack. In the middle of taking a sack, and his running back was out to his left. And as he's taking the sack, he tosses the ball out to his running back. And thankfully, his running back and him were on the same page. But it was one of those moments where I think a lot of the times in the film I saw when he was under pressure, he starts to panic. And then it turns into like hero ball at the last minute. And this is where he gets into trouble, because there was one play where he's going down and he's getting sacked, feeling the pressure, starts to panic, and he had been staring to the right side the whole play, the entire play, and that receiver was not open. And then he looks to the left and then realizes he's about to get sacked, looks back to the right to the place where he knew that receiver was covered, and then threw it that way. And it was an interception-worthy play. And I'm not sure if he just thought that he had the arm to get it out of bounds, but as he was going down, he threw that pass. And it's stuff like that where he kind of worries me. I'm talking about strengths, but I'm already getting into his weaknesses. The hero ball is there, but obviously it's like we talked about with Caleb Williams. Hero ball can get you in trouble. It can. So you have to do it in moments where the world isn't ending. Because most of the time when you're getting sacked, sometimes you just got to take a sack. You just got to take a sack. That's okay. It's okay to take sacks. But the issue is when you start turning those negative plays into worse plays and into worse mistakes. That's when it starts getting a little, I'm a little nervous with him. He does play in structure and he can do full field reads, and he does it all the time. He keeps his eyes downfield when scrambling. And I remember another play specifically where he did this, where he drops back, and I don't know if it was a quarterback draw, but he either that or he immediately felt the pressure, comes up and then tosses the ball as he's getting smacked by a linebacker and kind of puts touch on the ball, and then he gets the touchdown because they were right next to the goal line. So, that's something you like to see. It's kind of like he can use his legs, but he's still looking down the field. So his weaknesses, like I said, it's just risky behavior. It's the plays where you're already taking a negative play and you're turning it into something worse. And that's where at the next level, that kind of stuff does translate. And that scares me, man. That scares me because when I watch some of those plays, when I watch Drake Maye start to get pressured, and when I watch him start to make some of those bad decisions instead of just taking a sack, where he makes the dumbest interceptions, the most baffling interceptions. And that's stuff that worries me. And I think he got away with it sometimes, which is fine, but you're not going to get away with it at the next level. If you try to get out of that sack whenever an elite pass rusher is coming after you, you're going to end up fumbling the ball if you can't get it out on time. And even if you do get it out on time, as you're getting torn to the ground by an elite pass rusher, that pass is going to be even more inaccurate. So that's something that worries me a lot with his game. I'd say the number one issue with Drake Maye is the consistency. Now, you can watch his highlights, right? And a lot of people out there who are Drake Maye fans probably just watch his highlights because he has big plays and he looks really good when he has those big plays. The thing that concerns me is the consistency, because he will miss very, very easy throws to his running backs, or when he's getting pressured. There was one play where he had a wide open touchdown to Tez Walker, and he just overthrows him, and he's getting pressured. Like he can feel the pressure a little bit, but it was one of those things where the guy was wide open and he just guns it, and it goes like 10 yards over his head. That's the kind of stuff that I think he needs to work on. The consistency is the number one problem with Drake Maye. He needs to work on consistency. All right, so let's look at some of his stats. In 2022, I would say his breakout season, he had 342 completions for 4,321 yards and 38 touchdowns with only 7 interceptions. That was a rating of 157.9. Yeah, that was a good breakout year. That was only his sophomore season. So, he had barely played his freshman year, like we said before. And in 2023, he had 269 completions for 3,608 yards and 24 touchdowns with only 9 interceptions. And that was a rating of 149. So he's an elite thrower. He's an elite guy when it comes to staying in the pocket, working in a system, throwing the ball down the field. And as much as I say that his weaknesses are making mistakes, he really didn't have that many interceptions. He only had 7 in 2022 and 9 in 2023. For me, it was just the way those interceptions looked. Like, it's one thing to throw a pass and it deflects off of guys' hands and it goes into the air and then somebody intercepts it. That was not his type of interception. His interceptions are, oh, I'm deep in my own goal line and I'm about to get sacked and take a safety. And I know that guy's covered, but I'm still going to throw it and it's going to get picked type of plays. It's just the way that he feels pressure and the way that he handles himself in situations that are high stress. And his rushing stats in 2022, he had 184 attempts for 698 yards and 7 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, that's a part of his game. I mean, it's not what we're going to get into with Jayden Daniels, but he still, I mean, 7 touchdowns is great. That's what you like to see. As far as rushing, he's a better rusher than Caleb Williams as far as the stats go, but he has more quarterback draws, and he does, unlike Caleb Williams, he will just go. Like if he's starting to feel pressure, he'll just go. So, and that's kind of his vibe. He gets a little nervous and then he just goes. And sometimes he's less likely to keep his eyes down the field, which again, concerning. But in 2023, he had 112 attempts for 449 yards and 9 touchdowns. So kind of trailed off, but still a good amount of rushing yards. As an NFL prospect, I'd say he has a lot of potential. A lot of potential. He has the tools and he has the physical ability to make his game better and to develop. He really needs to work on his consistency with his accuracy to be successful in the NFL. That's one of the main things he needs to focus on. His rushing upside also makes him very interesting for fantasy football. All right, Jayden Daniels, quarterback, LSU. Let's get into it. He's 23 years old. He's 23, guys. He is 2 years older than Drake Maye. And he is a 5-year player. Right off the bat, I hate that. I hate that he is 23 years old. So I'm just going to get that out of the way. I hate how old he is. I am an ageist. But with that being said, you might be surprised by what I think about Jayden Daniels. So he is 6'3", 210 pounds. He has a lighter frame. And he also has small hands. He has a weird looking elbow, guys. His elbow. I know it's fine. I know it doesn't affect his game. But dude, that elbow, man. That elbow looks crazy. If the first thing he needs to do with his money is, I mean, fix that elbow, man. There's something living on his elbow. There's something, you could draw a face on it and it could talk. That's mean. But yeah, he's got a weird looking elbow. He also didn't run the 40 at the combine like everybody else, but he has previously ran a 4.5 40, which is in the 97th percentile. So pretty damn good. Let's get into his bio. All right, so he played at Cajon High School in San Bernardino, California. And he was a 4-star recruit, threw for 14,000 yards and 170 touchdowns during his high school career. And that was complemented by an impressive 3,600 yards on the ground. He was a participant in the Under Armour All-American game, and Daniels made his collegiate commitment to Arizona State on December 13th, 2018, back in the day. Wow. His freshman efforts were swiftly recognized as he clinched an honorable mention for the Pac-12 Freshman Offensive Player of the Year in 2019. He faced a disrupted 2020 due to global events. Daniels showcased adaptability in a shortened season, especially evident in his standout performance against USC, where he rushed for a career-high 111 yards. He'd then garner attention as he was named to the Davey O'Brien Award watch list. Despite the turbulence at Arizona State, he shone through, earning second-team preseason All-Pac-12 recognition and making it to multiple watch lists ahead of his junior season. He then went to LSU in 2022, and in 2023 had an incredible season. He had the best season in college football. He put up a record season leading the nation in total offense, touchdown passes, touchdowns responsible for at 50, and rushing yards by a quarterback at 1,100. His NFL pass rating of 146.5 through 12 games is the best in FBS history. He won the SEC Offensive Player of the Week 5 times, and Daniels is one of only 2 players in SEC history to pass for 3,500 yards and rush for 1,000 yards in a season. The other player was Johnny Manziel. Now his awards, in 2023, he won the Davey O'Brien Award, the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, the Walter Camp Award, and the Heisman Memorial Trophy. All right, so let's talk about his strengths. I thought he was great at evading the pass rush, and he's great at finding lanes to escape the pocket, and he has great speed for a guy that's 6'3". And I know he's undersized, so that kind of helps, but 97th percentile, 40 time, guys. He is fast, and he is football fast. It shows on the film. He has breakaway speed as a quarterback, which is dangerous. It's dangerous when you're a rushing threat. He can throw on the run, and he can throw across his body accurately. It's kind of interesting how many of these guys can throw on the run and across their bodies nowadays. It's like we've now talked about 3 quarterbacks in this class who have shown that they can do that. And it seems nowadays that's something you got to have to go into the NFL. That's something that everybody likes to see, and it's flashy. He consistently makes full field reads and makes great decisions doing it. That is something I want to emphasize, is his consistency as a game manager and the way that he controls the game by himself as a leader of the offense. He becomes the entire offense at times when I was watching his film. I mean, when there is no run game, he is the run game. When receivers are dropping passes, even good receivers, Malik Neighbors dropping passes, Brian Thomas dropping passes, and the guy is just consistent. He consistently puts the ball where it needs to be on target. And to be honest with you, I think that there was more to be had out there with the way that his receivers dropped the ball at times. As someone who was as high on Malik Neighbors, watching Jayden Daniels' film, I was very surprised. Very surprised, because you look at these guys and you're like, Drake Maye, what are his weapons? Tez Walker, he didn't have him for most of the season. But then you look at Jayden Daniels, and he has all these weapons, right? Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., both are going in the first round of the NFL draft, it looks like. So before I got into this, I would have told you that, hey, the talent around him kind of made him who he is. The talent around him is what made him have such a great 2023 season, right? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Does it help? Does it help to have good playmakers around you? Yes. But when you watch the film, when you watch the tape, when you watch every single play, there is a reason why he won the Heisman. And he absolutely deserved it. Absolutely. And I was kind of confused when he won the Heisman. I'm not going to lie. I was confused. Do I watch as much college football as other people do? No, I don't. But after watching his film, man, the guy is so consistent. It isn't funny. And I think that is something that it doesn't matter how old you are. If you can play on an NFL field and you can have that dual threat ability and that consistency throwing the ball and having the accuracy and having the tools to run and throw on the run and throw across your body and drop dimes. I think the only weaknesses I saw, the only weakness was that one of them was he wasn't throwing to his running backs. Like, he doesn't lead his running backs or his tight ends that are just going off and kind of drop off passes or screen passes. He was throwing it behind on the back shoulder. That can easily be worked on. If it was his accuracy down the field at all on any level, that would be concerning. But to me, that's something that can be fixed. I mean, he was so good. I mean, dropping balls in a bucket in big time plays. And the plays that you go back and you watch Malik Neighbors, his highlights, just go back and look, because some of them are just dimes. Some of them are dimes. And they are in places where they have to be for him to make that play. Now, Malik Neighbors makes the play. And I'm really high on Malik Neighbors. But after watching Jayden Daniels' film, I have way more respect for him as a prospect. Way more respect. And the only other weakness is just using that lower body torque on some throws. I think it leads to a little bit of inaccuracy. But even in the games that I watched, he fixed that. He made a mistake not using it one play. Literally the next play, he fixed it and he used his hips. It's kind of like that. If you guys know Dak Prescott's little hip thrust dance that he does before games, that's what I think Jayden Daniels needs to do. Just do a little bit more hip thrust, because he's a light guy. He doesn't have a lot down there. He doesn't have big legs, so he's got to use every bit of that hip motion to get torque on the ball. Another knock I've seen a lot of people take on Jayden Daniels is that he takes big hits. I was watching a game where he was actually really good at protecting himself, and there was maybe out of 9 plays, there was one play where he took a big hit, and it wasn't even that bad. But most of the time he runs out of bounds, and he's still beating people in the open field and then getting out of bounds. So everybody's being a little too hard on him, and I think it's because of his light frame. That dual threat ability, man. I mean, he may get injured and whatever, but he's still 6'3" and heavy enough. He's not a Kyler Murray running around out there. He's not that small. I think people are being a bit harsh on this end of things. I think he's fine. And I think being at the next level, I think his coaches are going to even emphasize the fact, like, hey, just go down. Just go down. You are our number 2 drafted quarterback in the draft. You are a valuable asset to us. Please just slide. So let's look at his passing stats. In 2019, he had 205 completions for 2,943 yards and 17 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions. And that was a passer rating of 149.2. That was at Arizona State. In 2020, he only had 700 yards passing for 5 touchdowns. That was his shortened season due to COVID. In 2021, he had 197 completions for 2,380 yards, 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So that was kind of concerning that year. The next year, though, he went to LSU, and in 2022, he threw for 266 completions, 2,913 yards, 17 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions for a quarterback rating of 144.5. And then in 2023, like we said, we'll say it again, 236 completions for 3,812 yards, 72.2 completion percentage, 40 touchdowns, 0 interceptions? 0 interceptions. Is that real? I'm about to look that up right now. Nah, dog, he had 4 interceptions. He had 4. So 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Still great. His rushing stats, this is where you fall in love with Jayden Daniels, right? This is where you fall in love. In 2019, 125 attempts for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm just going to skip over 2020. It doesn't matter. In 2021, he had 138 attempts for 710 yards and 6 touchdowns. In 2022 at LSU, his first year, 186 attempts, 885 yards, and 11 touchdowns. And in 2023, 135 attempts, 1,134 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He is the dual threat quarterback this year. He is the Anthony Richardson hype train from last year. That's what everybody's looking at in Jayden Daniels. And for fantasy, that's why you should be interested in him. So I think there's a big reason why Jayden Daniels won the Heisman. And I think there's a reason why he's projected to go number 2 in the NFL draft. To be honest with you, I think it's warranted. I think it is. I think he deserves it. When you look at the analytics and you look at the film, in my opinion, and in many other people's opinion that I respect, analytical guys, nerdy guys, film guys, Jayden Daniels is better than Drake Maye. He is. He is, analytically. And on the film, he's a better quarterback. And I know in the back of my mind, there's this factor of age. And it's a 2-year gap. And I am usually a guy who would say take the younger guy, especially with them being as close as it feels like they are. But something about it, after watching the film and looking at the stats and the rushing upside of Jayden Daniels, I want Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye. I do. He gets me way more excited as far as dynasty fantasy football goes. And even just when you look at it as an NFL prospect, Drake Maye is prone to make more mistakes. And I think the mistakes are just so bad. So bad. It made me, don't get me wrong, like I was going into this, I wanted it to be Drake Maye because I wanted to come out and be the guy that goes against the grain and says, hey, no, guys, let's not look at the 23-year-old. Let's look at the young guy that can rush the ball too. He has the dual threat ability, but that's just not that's not the way I came away with it. The mistakes with Drake Maye were too much for me to overlook. And I do think the NFL draft will bring more clarity on who is the better prospect. Whoever gets drafted first, that's who we should trust the most, is these scouts, these teams who are investing their second overall pick, the Commanders. That whoever they take at 2, we need to come back and reevaluate afterwards. But I'm just saying, as it stands now, number 2, Jayden Daniels, number 3, Drake Maye, it's Jayden Daniels. I would almost say number 2, if it went number 2, Drake Maye, number 3, Jayden Daniels, I'd be a little concerned, but I think I'd still want to go Jayden Daniels. But like I said, we'd have to come back to it. But unless Jayden Daniels falls down the board, because we're really just not taking his age into account, which could happen, I'm not really going to move Jayden Daniels behind Drake Maye. And for fantasy football, I think it's even more so pointing to Jayden Daniels. The dual threat ability and the rushing for Jayden Daniels, it has me sold. It has me sold. The guy looks like RG3 out there on the field. And arguably, he looks a little bit like Lamar. Like his small frame, the way that he is just breaking guys' ankles on the field. I'm not saying he's Lamar. I'm just saying it kind of looks like him sometimes. That's all I'm saying. If he is used on quarterback draws and he scrambles in the NFL as much as he did in college, he will be elite for fantasy football. Elite. And I think no matter where he goes, even if he goes to the Patriots, we all hate the Patriots. We all hate that landing spot. But even if he goes to the Patriots, I think he's still going to be extremely fantasy relevant. And he's shown, like in his tape against Bama, that he can be the whole offense. And, college is different from the NFL, but he showed us he can run the ball. And he showed us he can be consistent. And that's what these teams that need a quarterback need. They need consistency. And they need that playmaker so that they can try to build something around this guy. So this is just my take right now. Like I said, if there's a change up in the NFL draft and if Drake Maye goes higher, then I do think we have to go back and reconsider, right? We have to. That's just being smart. I mean, we should really listen to what the NFL, what these teams are telling us. I'm not a professional scout, right? As much as we all want to watch film and we want to get a leg up on our league mates, these NFL scouts are smarter than we are. I say that, but they have made bad decisions in the past. I mean, Zach Wilson did go number 2 overall. So, I mean, they do make mistakes, but I'm just saying I would always trust the guys who do this for a living more than myself. But I do think it's good to take your opinion and use that in drafts. But just if Drake Maye goes over Jayden Daniels, I do think we need to revisit this after the draft. I could see a world where Drake Maye develops his game, and with his prototypical size, he's younger. If he develops and becomes more consistent, I could see him having a better career than Jayden Daniels. I could see that. I'm more prone to say, let's just look at them where they're at right now. Let's not try to give every prospect what if they develop like Josh Allen type of summary. Because if we do that with everybody, then we're going to project everybody as Josh Allen. And he's a unicorn. It doesn't happen. So at the end of the day, me personally, I'm going to lean on the consistency of Jayden Daniels with his decision making and with his accuracy. So that's going to wrap it up for today's pod. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please remember to leave a rating and review and subscribe if you haven't already wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Sleeper Dynasty. Peace.